Hello everyone, and welcome to Tales from the Dark. I'm here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep. So before that, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching? Now, get comfortable and relax. This horror tale is called The Marionette House. I never knew my Uncle Charles. He was the kind of relative that existed only in passing comments, half whispered at family reunions or traced in the margins of old photo albums. My mother always described him as eccentric. My father refused to speak of him at all, so when I received a letter, written in ornate ink on thick parchment, stating that I had inherited his estate, I didn't think it was real. The envelope had no return address, no stamp, just my full name written in careful cursive across the front. Inside, the letter read, "You've always belonged here, even if you've never seen it. The house will welcome you now. Come alone. Bring no one. Tell no one. You'll understand why soon." And scrawled beneath it in a different, shakier hand, "They move when you're not looking." That should have been enough to throw it away. But 2 days later, I was driving into the woods of northern Vermont, toward a part of the map that GPS couldn't seem to trace anymore. The road narrowed the deeper I drove, winding into mist and pine. My phone had lost signal an hour ago. The last gas station I'd passed had been boarded up, and the last town didn't even have a name. The forest around me looked frozen in time, and then I saw it. The house. It wasn't large, but it towered all the same. 3 stories of dark timber, carved latticework, and windows that looked like eyes. It stood at the end of a stone path, half swallowed by fog, and hanging from the porch ceiling, gently swaying in the wind, were marionettes, dozens of them, some old and cracked, some with eyes missing, some with their strings tangled and necks twisted. All of them facing the road, waiting. I got out of the car slowly. The air smelled like rain and smoke and something older. When I stepped onto the path, every marionette on the porch turned to face me, all at once. No breeze, no wires, just motion, deliberate and horrible. I stopped walking. The front door creaked open, just slightly. The smell that drifted out was sweet and sour at once, like perfume spilled over rotting wood. I should have run, but something about the air here made running feel pointless, like the decision had already been made for me. I stepped inside, and the door shut behind me with a sound like laughter. The floorboards creaked like old joints beneath my boots. Every step forward felt like stepping into a photograph. Too still, too posed. The entryway was grand in the way only forgotten houses can be. Faded wallpaper, a spiral staircase choked in dust, a chandelier that hung too low and had too many arms, more than it should, and the smell. It was stronger now, like a childhood attic no one dared clean. Musk cedar, something sharp, varnish maybe, but beneath that sweetness. Honey, I turned in place, and I noticed something strange. There were no corners. Where the walls met the ceiling, the seams curved softly. The house was rounded in the wrong places, like it had been built from the inside out. Then something moved behind me. I spun. A puppet. It had been sitting in a chair in the corner, slumped over, one arm dangling. Now it was sitting upright, facing me. There were 3 bedrooms upstairs. I chose the smallest. Didn't ask myself why. The bed was already made. The sheets were impossibly clean. And there was a marionette on the dresser. A little girl, wooden pigtails, face cracked down the middle like an eggshell. I set her on the floor, turned her face to the wall. Didn't want to sleep with her watching me. Around 2 a.m., I woke up. The door creaked open slowly. My breath caught. I didn't move. Then I heard it. Click, click, click. Not footsteps. Wood. Something small. Moving slowly. When I turned the bedside lamp on, the puppet was standing in the doorway, its head tilted, its strings twitching. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I blinked, and it was gone. I searched the house the next morning, trying to find a reason, a trick, wires, a remote, something, but the rooms were empty. Then I found a gallery. It was a long hallway on the second floor, behind a velvet curtain. Dozens of portraits, ornate, formal, all painted in oil, kind that never dries. And in every one of them, someone was holding a puppet. Some held it gently, some held it by the strings. One woman had hers cradled like a baby, and one man held a puppet that looked exactly like me. Same nose, same scar on the chin, same jawline, painted with perfect detail, and the signature at the bottom of the frame, Uncle Charles, 1978. I woke with something dry in my mouth. I sat up fast, gagging, and pulled a string from my throat. Thin, pale, frayed, about 2 feet long. It had been inside me. I stared at it in the dim morning light, too stunned to panic. What kind of dream ends with evidence? The mirror above the dresser fogged as I breathed, and I noticed it had words etched faintly into the frame, barely visible unless the light hit it right. Puppets don't dream. Something behind the mirror tapped. Once, then again. I backed out of the room slowly, and as I turned the hallway corner, I caught movement. A marionette, the same little girl I'd set on the floor, was sitting on the railing of the upstairs landing, swinging her legs. There was a room at the end of the third floor, hallway, with no doorknob. I hadn't noticed it before, but now the air around it was warm, like something inside was breathing against the wood. I pressed my ear to it. No sound except ticking. Hundreds of clocks, softly, impossibly in sync. I don't remember how, but the door opened. Inside a workshop. Walls lined with gears and wire. Blueprints stacked on a desk. And puppets, incomplete ones, hanging from hooks. Some had faces, but no bodies. Others had bodies, but no faces. One had human teeth set into its wooden mouth. And in the center of the room, a mannequin-sized figure seated upright in a high-backed chair. At first, I thought it was another puppet, until its eyes blinked. Not carved, not painted. Human. I stepped closer. The thing in the chair didn't speak. It just sat there watching me. Its arms and legs were jointed like a marionette, but the skin, or whatever coated it, was too textured, almost stitched. Then I saw the tag on its wrist. Property of Charles M. It looked like me. Older, drawn, pale, its mouth opened slowly, and it whispered, "You're not the first." Then something slid down its face, a single line of red, blood, from its eye. I found it by accident, a small cabinet under the staircase, behind a wall panel that clicked when I leaned against it. Inside, a single, thin book bound in black velvet, edges frayed with age. It was labeled Guests. I sat on the bottom stair, flipping through the entries. The handwriting varied, some shaky, some scrawled in panic. One just said, "Let me out," over and over until the page turned red. But others were calm. One entry near the middle read, "He tells me I was always made of wood." I don't remember being anything else now. The dreams help. Soon, I'll forget completely. I think that's the trick. J. Renner, 1996. Another. Don't drink the tea. Don't sleep in smallest room. Don't look at your reflection after dark. I made all 3 mistakes. You don't have to. Grace M. 2008. And on the very last page, there was only one word. Run. Written in my handwriting. But I hadn't written it. Yet, at night, the house made noise. Not groaning or creaking. That would have made sense. This was tension. like something tightly pulled was shifting, a pressure in the bones of the place. When I pressed my ear to the wall in the hallway, I could hear it, the tight twang of strings under stress, as if the house had a spine made of violin wire. That night, I couldn't sleep. The walls itched. The room watched. Around 3 a.m., I caught movement under the door. A string, sliding across the floor like a snake, pale and taut. It stopped in front of my bed, curled slightly, then snapped backward, like it had been yanked by something bigger. From behind the walls, I heard footsteps, but the floorboards didn't creak. The next morning, I followed the sound of music, a faint music box melody drifting through the hallway. It led me to a room I hadn't seen before. The mirror room. Mirrors covered every wall, floor to ceiling, framed in gold and black wood. Some cracked, some fogged, none showing the same reflection twice. In one, I was sleeping. In another, I stood behind myself. In a third, my reflection had no strings, while I could feel them crawling across my back like cold wire. In the center of the room stood a single chair. A puppet sat in it, its head slumped forward, its arms dangled. Then all at once, every mirror showed it turning its head to look at me. But in the real room, it hadn't moved. It took me 3 days to find the key. 3 days of searching every drawer, under every floorboard, behind every painting. The key was hidden in the spine of a book titled Inheritance, a visual history, a massive tome that didn't appear on the shelf until I looked away and turned back. I don't ask how things like that happen anymore. I've learned the house gives what it wants to be found. The attic door was heavy. It stuck when I turned the key, like something was pushing against it. But when it opened, silence. Dust danced in the light from a single stained glass window. And in the center of the room was a small table, covered in blueprints, puppet schematics, hundreds of them, all labeled with names. And one of them, titled simply CM, had my face. There were photos tucked between the pages. Uncle Charles was younger than I expected in them. Late 20s, maybe. Sharp eyes, hands always stained with ink or varnish, and always surrounded by puppets. He never smiled. In one picture, he was holding a marionette so lifelike, I mistook it for a child at first. Its face was blurred, not by the camera, but by time, as if something didn't want it seen. There was a journal, too, bound in leather, stiff with age. The last entry was dated October 31st, 1981. They are still moving at night, even when I cut the strings, even when I bury them. I don't think it's me controlling them anymore. I think they've learned to control themselves. I cannot leave. I never could. The house is in my blood now, or I am in its mouth. Whoever finds this, you are not free. You are not a guest. You are the next. That night, the house went quiet, not peaceful, not still, just waiting. I followed candlelight downstairs and found the living room rearranged. The furniture had been moved to face the far wall, and on that wall, a small wooden stage had been erected. Red velvet curtains, tiny painted set, and 4 puppets, each dressed like someone I knew from my past. My old roommate, my 6th grade teacher, my father, and the 4th. It was me, but not now. It was me as a child. The lights dimmed, the curtains rose, and the puppets began to move, on their own, acting out memories I hadn't thought about in years. Real things, personal things, private things. And as they moved, I realized they weren't just mimicking, they were feeding. The stage went quiet, the curtain fell, and for a few seconds, I couldn't move. The air in the room was thick, humid, heavy with the smell of old fabric, glue, and something sour. Fear left too long in a sealed room. The puppet that looked like my father was slumped forward, strings trembling, Then its head jerked upward and locked eyes with me. "Did you like the show?" it asked. Its mouth didn't move. The voice came from the walls, from behind me. I turned. No one, but something had changed. The furniture behind me wasn't where it had been. The wallpaper had shifted. The rug had a pattern I didn't recognize. A spiral made of puppets eating each other's strings. Time had moved without me. Or maybe I had moved in time. I ran upstairs, tried to find my room, but it wasn't there. Instead of the familiar narrow hallway, I was met with something new. A long corridor lined with identical doors. No windows, no frames, no markings. And from behind each one, I heard something different. A baby crying, a woman humming, my own voice screaming. I opened one door at random. It showed a room for my childhood, my actual childhood, my old red comforter, the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, my stuffed whale. It even smelled right, like Crayola and laundry soap. I stepped inside, and immediately the door slammed shut. I turned. The room was still the same, but the whale blinked. Its eyes were glass, and from the ceiling, a puppet lowered itself slowly on strings, grinning with my childhood face. I escaped. I don't remember how. The walls collapsed, or melted, or something else entirely. But I ended up in a new part of the house, the ballroom. I didn't know it had one. It stretched farther than seemed possible. Dusty chandeliers, a floor like a mirror, velvet curtains that danced when I wasn't looking directly at them. And in the center of the ballroom, a man, tall, thin, back to me, wearing a long black coat, hair gray and wild. He held a wooden crossbeam in each hand, a marionette controller. Dozens of strings dangled from it, into the air, into nothing. I called out. He turned slowly. He had no mouth, just smooth, sanded wood where a face should have been. But I heard him anyway, inside my head. "I've waited for your hands." Then I felt a pull. My arms were no longer mine. My arms moved without me. Slow, careful motions, the kind you'd use with a puppet. I looked up and saw the strings, attached to my wrists, ankles, spine, faint and quivering in the dust-heavy air, almost invisible until I noticed them. And once I saw them, I felt them, like cold wires beneath my skin, like my nerves had been rewired without my consent. The man with no face stood silent, head tilted, as if watching a performance. My knees buckled. I collapsed to the ballroom floor, and when I hit the ground, I heard it. Applause, from all around me, from the walls, from above. Evelyn led me down a hallway I swear hadn't been there before. Behind the door was a library so massive it seemed impossible. Not just tall, deep. The shelves plunged into darkness. The books weren't labeled by genre or name. They were labeled by role. The heir, the outsider, the orphan, the fool, the puppet, the marionettist, the watcher. Every visitor plays one, Evelyn said. Some switch, some ascend. She handed me a red-bound book. No title, just a date on the spine. 2025. I opened it. It was my story, from chapter 1, word for word, right up to the moment I walked into the archives, and the rest of the pages were blank. The red book remained on my lap, its final pages blank, waiting. "You don't have to fill it," Evelyn said gently. "But if you don't, someone else will." I asked what she meant. She looked toward the ceiling, toward something unseen. The house is not alive in the way we understand it. It's a stage, yes, but also a mind, a hunger. It needs storytellers, puppets, audience, and someone to pull the strings. I stared down at the list of roles carved into the shelves. "The Watcher," I whispered. She nodded. "The first role, and the last." She walked away after that, back into the shelves. I never saw her again. Later that night, the house guided me. Yes, guided. I don't pretend anymore. It brought me to the basement, past the furnace room, through a panel behind a rotted tapestry. At the end of the corridor was a small room lit by a single oil lamp. Inside, a desk, a broken marionette, and a journal. Leather-bound, cracked. The cover read, CM, Uncle Charles. I opened it. Most entries were illegible, warped by water or time. But one near the end read clearly. They chose me when I was 12. I thought I was dreaming. They gave me the strings. I took them. I thought I was the writer. But the house was only waiting for someone willing to believe in the part. They never needed a controller, only someone who would play one. And then, if someone reads this, you've already replaced me. I returned to the ballroom. The stage was waiting. So was the mirror. I could see myself clearly now. Thin, tired, fingers trembling, strings trailing from my wrists, but no one holding them. I looked down. The crossbeam was in my hands. The same wooden H I'd seen the faceless man carry. Only now it was me holding it. In the mirror, I saw the puppets moving again. All the ones from before. My father, the teacher, Evelyn, my childhood self. They weren't wooden now. They were flesh, trapped, looking to me. And behind them, in the rafters, eyes, endless, blinking eyes, watching, waiting for a cue. The house was quieter than I'd ever heard it. No puppets moved. No clocks ticked. No wind, like it was holding its breath. I stood at the center of the ballroom, the crossbeam in my hands. Strings coiled on the floor like sleeping serpents. I realized something. I could feel them. Each string was a line, a thought, a memory, a person. Tug one, a reaction. Tug harder, obedience. I was the marionettist now, but not because I wanted to be, because the house had written me into the role, and I didn't know how to get out of a story I hadn't authored. I returned to the library. The red book sat on a pedestal now, open to a single, handwritten sentence. All stories in the same way. I turned the page. It was blank. My hands trembled, and I wrote, "No." The chandelier above me groaned. The pages of the books began to flutter, and I heard it, the voice again, not from behind me, not from the walls, from inside me. "That's not your line." The room darkened, and every puppet in the house, every figure in every portrait, every marionette in the attic, every slumped memory, began to walk toward me. I was surrounded, frozen. Then a hand gripped mine. Evelyn, alive, breathing. "No one ever says no," she said. "Not this far in." "How are you?" I never left. I just stopped following the script. She pulled me through the crowd, down corridors, through mirrors. The puppets didn't stop us. They watched. They waited. "They're not the enemy," she said as we moved. "They're the audience." Then who? We turned the final corner, and there it was, a stage, black velvet, and on it, a wooden throne, empty, waiting. Evelyn turned to me. "You have one chance," she said, "but it has to be yours." "What do I do?" She pointed to the chair. "To end the story, someone has to sit there." I stepped forward, but before I reached the stage, I looked down. My arms, my legs, strings again. No crossbeam this time. Just strings, leading upward into shadow. And I realized I'd never been holding the controller. The house had every choice, every memory, even my resistance. Scripted, expected, another act. I dropped to my knees and screamed, "Stop writing me." Everything shattered. Glass, light, sound. The ballroom peeled away like wet paper. The walls buckled. The strings burned. The house screamed. The puppets screamed. I screamed, but it wasn't pain. It was release. And when the dust settled, I was sitting on the floor of an empty room. Just me. One chair. One mirror. No puppets. No scripts. The red book was gone. The strings were gone. The house was silent. It was morning, or something like it. The front door was open. Outside, trees. Wind. A sky that didn't press down. I stepped through the threshold. No tricks. No collapse. No reset. Just dirt underfoot. Fog in the trees. And in the distance, a road. I didn't look back. Not once. But even now, I sometimes feel a tug in my shoulders. Like something wants to lift my arms again. Like the house is wondering, is the show really over? And when I pass mirrors, I sometimes see curtains behind me. Red, closed, waiting. If you're reading this, you already know too much. You've read your role. You've felt the strings tighten. You've seen the theater, haven't you? You think the story ended. But stories don't end. They only change hands. The next curtain rises soon, and you'll know what it does. Because one day, when you're alone in a quiet room, you'll hear applause.